Hello, my dear viewers. I'm Olga Demchuk, a researcher of the inner world of personality. Today, I would like to talk to you about emotional intelligence. Should we restrain our emotions or should we not? When we talk about emotional intelligence, we are actually talking about two things: the event of emotion and the event of intellect. Intellect implies the ability to understand and make sense of what is happening with our emotions. In order for us to learn how to deal with our emotions, we need to understand their history, how they arise, and where they come from. Emotions are always a product of our subjectivity, something that concerns us personally. Our emotions are a signaling system. Imagine you live in a house, you have a yard, and there is an alarm system on your property. When there is some movement, perhaps there are sensors that react to motion or other triggers. The alarm system starts to signal that something is happening. In exactly the same way, our emotions let us know that something is going on. Our system has been thrown out of balance. When our system goes out of balance, it is signaling something to us. That means we need to respond to it in some way. Our emotional system becomes unbalanced in two situations: when we feel good and when we feel bad. We have two extremes. If we feel good, then let it stay that way. I like it and I will strive for it. If I feel bad, then I should leave this place as soon as possible. In other words, experiencing emotions implies some kind of response. All of this happens internally. And not everyone is able to treat their emotions as a signaling system that tells them something personal about themselves. Many people relate to their emotions differently. We have talked a lot about how we tend to project the cause of our emotions. That is, we don't acknowledge that the anger or dissatisfaction is ours. Instead, we say, "It's you who make me angry, it's you who make me dissatisfied." So if a person cannot take ownership of their emotions, they won't be able to develop their emotional intelligence. When we talk about experiencing emotions, about what we like or dislike, it will always be something personal to us. But when a person lacks a sense of identity, has no idea of who they are, when this I disappears somewhere, then the person doesn't say that they personally dislike someone. We phrase it as, "This is a bad person," as if the I that made this judgment has somehow vanished. That is, we are unable to claim this emotion as our own. We cannot own our personal reaction or our personal perspective. And even when a person says, "In my opinion, this is a bad person," or "It seems to me that this is a bad person," it is a kind of manipulation. In other words, I am certain that this is a bad person. But when I say "it seems to me" or "in my opinion," this phrase is inserted as a form of political correctness. So initially, in order for us to understand emotional intelligence, we need to take ownership of our emotions. Our emotions always convey something to us. They are information meant for us. And if we don't really understand, if we don't see clearly that this information is first of all about us, not about the world outside, but about ourselves, then it becomes impossible to do anything with these emotions. We will not be able to manage them, because if they are not mine, then I cannot influence them in any way. When I learned to take ownership of my emotions, I needed to understand them in a more nuanced and differentiated way. Emotions are often imagined as a kind of fiery ball, that is, as a surge of emotion. And if you picture them all together as a single mass, it creates the sense that you are up against some unknown force. This is often the attitude we have toward emotions. When we experience significant emotional arousal or considerable tension around someone, and we are truly unable to recognize that we ourselves have become quite tense, we instantly and often mistakenly think that the other person is the primary cause of our discomfort and unease. In other words, it's not me producing this, it's the other person doing something to me. And a person gets used to treating their own emotional reactions as something that attacks them from within. That is, if I don't realize that it's me who has lost control, that it's me who is experiencing these emotions right now, then sometimes I might even perceive emotions as some unknown, frightening force that I have to resist, that presses down on me, something that weighs on me. And when it comes to emotional reactions, most often control kicks in. That is, when we analyze emotions, their antagonist is control. So when we experience emotions, our first reaction is usually to suppress them. Why do we suppress them? Because we are used to suppressing our emotions for the sake of socialization. And some people have suppressed their emotions to such an extent that they are like dolls. That is, they no longer understand themselves, feel nothing, and want nothing. People who have excessive control develop a sense that they are not truly living their lives. It's as if life is passing by, just slipping past them. A person doesn't experience, doesn't feel, doesn't express emotions about their life, and as a result can't even remember anything from it. In fact, in order for us to remember something, we need to have an emotional reaction to it, whether it's a text or a book. And when we turn to our memory, we always recall those emotionally charged moments. For example, if someone asks you what happened at a party, you'll remember the most emotionally charged moments. So our suppression of emotions arises because we don't know what to do with them. And this suppression, once formed in childhood, tends to stay with us throughout our lives. What can be done? Is it possible to express emotions and not suppress them? Control restrains our emotions. It reigns in that unknown force within us. And letting go of control can also be frightening. Many people are afraid to let go of control because they fear they will lose their minds. I suggest a different approach. Instead of working with control, focus on working directly with your emotions. As for control, it will naturally fade away on its own if these emotions stop being frightening to the person. How can we make emotions stop being frightening to the person themselves? First and foremost, emotions need to be differentiated. Emotions are often perceived as a fiery ball, like a comet flying through the air. And we suppress this fiery ball, this comet, so that we don't let it burst out and later regret it. Let's break this down with a specific example. Imagine that I made plans with my friend to go to the theater. I'm standing there waiting for her outside the theater, and she texts me, "I can't make it. There are problems at work." At that moment, an emotional wave rises within me. In other words, something is happening that I don't like, especially considering that I was already looking forward to her arrival. It feels like I'm taking a double hit. As a person, I imagined a situation where I would feel good going to the theater with my friend. When my friend doesn't give me that, I experience a double blow, because not only do I not get what would make me feel good, but I also get something that makes me feel bad. I wasn't given what I wanted, and instead I was given something unpleasant. An emotional wave rises within me. And if I don't hold back this emotional wave, if I don't activate that very control I mentioned, then I'll write to my friend, "See, I was already waiting for you. I was really hoping we would go together." Or, "You hurt me." Or, "I'm angry." So when people are taught to let their emotions out, that's exactly how I would have expressed them. But what actually happened inside me? Let's differentiate. Right now, let's pause for a moment and slow down time. Let's look inside my personality and differentiate the emotions in such a way that I don't have to hold anything back. So, I'm not coming, I'm not coming. At this very moment, our intricate system, which had already subtly shifted and moved closer to a state of anticipated pleasure, now completely moves out of that initial state of anticipation of pleasure, crosses the critical point of normalcy, and then unfortunately enters into a distinct state of profound displeasure. That very palpable feeling of something inherently bad, something truly unpleasant, begins to manifest. This is unpleasant for me. We reacted to this emotionally. When I receive this message, more than one emotion flares up inside me, even though it seems to me that I am holding back just one emotion. There is a whole set of emotions, a multitude of them. I feel despair and it weighs on me. I feel loss and it stays with me. I feel grief and it breaks me down. You see, I separate them one by one. I feel anger, strong and burning. I feel pain and suffering, sharp and real. I feel the desire for revenge rising inside me. This lump that has risen up, this total bodily reaction, is actually made up of a huge number of little lights that turn on and off in turn. If you ask a person, "What are you feeling right now?" then someone who understands their emotions, who has emotional intelligence, would answer, "I am experiencing a storm of feelings right now. I have many feelings at the moment." It's a combination of feelings, and they would list the same emotions I just mentioned. At one moment, I feel the urge to get angry at this person, then to feel sorry for myself, then despair, and so on and so forth. Just as I have listed now, when I start to truly perceive the wave that has indeed risen within me, not as a sudden ball lightning or a destructive tsunami, but instead, when I carefully differentiate it, I then understand precisely what is happening to me, that in essence is emotional intelligence. At that point, there is nothing for me to hold back because I fully understand my own reaction. If at that critical moment I do not thoroughly analyze the complex combination of all these powerful emotions, then inevitably one dominant emotion ends up winning out, potentially overwhelming the others and influencing subsequent actions. It's as if it takes over the rest. Some people have a habit of suffering, some of getting angry, some of falling into despair, and so on and so forth. This depends on you personally. In other words, a certain emotion can become dominant. These little lights start to turn on. Passion, anger, rage, suffering, despair, a sense of inferiority, and so on and so forth. And at some point, the psyche may settle on one of them. But I think that if you imagine this situation, you'll realize that even if just one emotion, like "I'm suffering, I'll endure it," turns on, it will still be periodically interrupted by anger. How could they do this to me? In other words, we experience conflicting emotions. It's not just a single emotion, from suffering to anger, from wanting revenge to pretending nothing happened. And this is the overstrain that has thrown the system out of balance. If a person doesn't have the habit of differentiating and understanding, this state can hold us for a very long time. We might find ourselves sitting at a play, having decided to go since we were already near the theater. And yet, we're not watching the play. We continue to feel torn up inside. It's as if something inside us keeps distracting us, switching on different colored lights one after another. Anger, victimhood, despair, a sense of inadequacy. And if I don't take ownership of this, if I don't realize that I am the source now producing this light coming from that bulb, then I remain unaware. And whether I hold them back or let them out, no matter how I express them, I'll still feel ashamed afterwards, because our emotions, once released, seem to prevent us from lying to ourselves. So as long as I keep them in, I can appear mature and intelligent. But as soon as I let them out, not only do I become a witness to this outburst myself, but there is also someone else who witnesses it. And then I start to feel guilty for not being as perfect as I thought I was. Whether it's an expression of anger or an expression of suffering, but in any case, it feels as if I've exposed myself. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, we are talking about the ability to understand our own emotions, to recognize that there are many of them, and to understand the reasons for their appearance. But in addition to that, we also need to be able to bear the truth about ourselves. If I am not allowed to know that I am in despair, if I am not allowed to know that I tend to fall into a victim mindset, if I am not allowed to know that I am angry, then I will never be able to develop emotional intelligence. I am absolutely forbidden from truly knowing all of this. So instead of this entire set of profound truths, I simply have some kind of fiery ball that I am holding back. I am utterly unable to bear knowing this whole truth about myself. It's completely forbidden for me to know all of it. So in order for a person, let's go back to the very beginning, in order for a person to become more sensitive and emotional, they need to learn to identify their emotions. But identifying your emotions is not enough. You also need to be able to bear the truth that you have all of these emotions. If I am able to withstand all of this, and I am already capable of not projecting the cause outward, but understanding that it is within me, then I will be able to let go of control, because I no longer need to restrain anything. I no longer need to control anything. Nothing is trying to burst out of me. In other words, we are specifically trying to control what is bursting out from within us. And sometimes this control deadens us. When we lack knowledge about emotions and are unable to face the truth about ourselves, that is, the self-image becomes too artificial, too idealized. If I do not possess this emotional intelligence, I will constantly feel as if something inside me wants to come out, but I am holding it back. I feel nauseous, but I am suppressing it. Because experiencing emotions is a product of our subjectivity. It is something that pertains personally to us, and we can feel overwhelmed by our own emotions. When you are near someone who is intensely emotional in your presence, it can feel toxic because they are overwhelmed by the products of their own subjectivity. And if, for example, my very good friend called me and said, "I absolutely cannot come right now, I am experiencing significant problems at work." In that precise moment, I would instantly and automatically generate this whole incredibly vast and complex array of diverse emotions and feelings. And the only thing I can do is hold myself back, step aside, and say, "Yes, I understand." Hang up the phone and restrain myself from unloading all of these emotions onto my friend. If I do, I will feel ashamed. If I hold it in, it will hurt. But if I truly differentiate and fully understand the situation, then I will certainly be able to effectively work through it. I will be able to work through it, and gradually I can begin to let go of this glass dome that I'm under. That is, I'll be able to be more open because I won't have to hold back what's trying to burst out. I will learn to live with my emotions inside on my own. And this glass dome, once it's gone, will actually allow for genuine emotional connection and a deeper perception of the world, as well as a deeper understanding of myself. There's no need to hide anything from yourself. And if I can feel more deeply, I'll be able to think more deeply too, but that's another story. I want to thank you for being here and sharing this journey with me. This channel began as an experiment, and your support is important. Every video is a chance to look a little closer at ourselves. Together we explore emotions, thinking, and the ways they shape who we become, as well as what is happening with ourselves. And there's space to ask questions, reflect, and notice what happens inside us. It's through these reflections that we start to understand ourselves more clearly. That's why I truly appreciate every comment you share. Your insights matter here. Your likes and subscriptions help this channel continue to grow and reach more people. It's thanks to your engagement that we can keep speaking the same language here and continue to grow together. And I invite you to revisit them anytime. Let me remind you, can order my first book in English. Link to the website page for ordering the book is in the video description. As always, at the end, I ask you to share your insights in the comments about what I've said. And perhaps you can analyze a small situation, like a friend not showing up to the theater, and notice the full range and combination of your emotions there. I'm saying goodbye for now. See you next time.